Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Globetrotter Newscast for today, the 2nd of May. It is May already. I cannot believe it. How quick has this year gone? I'm joined by Labour Party supporter and motorsport fan Zach Chambers for tonight's podcast. Hello, Zach.
Hi, hello, Charlie. Hello.
Zach, I want to say we're in the 5th month of the year already, and it is crazy how quick this year is going. It's amazing. I want to start with Formula. We're going to start with getting the motorsport news out of the way. And I want to start with the Portuguese Grand Prix and Formula One and career win 97 for 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. And Zach, it was a very interesting race at Portimao today, wasn't it?
Yes. I have to say, Charlie, it was not so exciting as the first two races, but it was still close at times, I would say. But it was a Mercedes weekend, if we're going to sum it up like that. And yeah, they were the ones on top this weekend. I think it was helped as well that the tyres really suited them going around the circuit as well. That's not going to really be helpful. But yes, it was the Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton who's an excellent driver overall and is still up on his A game, who won this weekend's race. And, it was helped by crucial passes, I would say, on Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas that helped him to win the race, really, with a bit of help from Bottas as well. You might have to say that. I would probably say on that one. Obviously, Bottas started on pole, Charlie, which obviously was a bit of a surprise. We thought the Red Bull were going to do a bit better on that one. I was waiting for the last minute super lap for Max Verstappen, and it didn't happen. Obviously, windy conditions for that, and he caught him out. He started third. Medium tyres, as I said, was the Mercedes' little friend this weekend, I think, personally, from what we saw. But yes, it was not the most eventful race. It was less eventful than the first two. But I have to say, Charlie, thank goodness we've got back-to-back races now, because we're going to be talking about this, you and me, all over again, Charlie, next week. I don't know we don't know what's going to happen next in Spain, yeah, but I don't know what's going to happen there. But at least we've got back-to-back races. It was Hamilton this time. Are we going to switch the switcheroo around? Potentially. Maybe we'll be Verstappen winning next time. Well, we don't know. Let's see what Spain's like. You can't predict these days because Red Bull caught up so much now. Obviously not enough this weekend that Red Bull, Mercedes won with Hamilton in the winner. And obviously it was Verstappen second, wasn't it? It was Verstappen second, I think it was. And Bottas third, with Perez fourth, and I believe driver of the day as well. Not bad. Not bad. I think well deserved, actually.
Yeah. I'm live on the Globetrotter Newscast on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter if anyone wants to listen in right now to all the latest news. But I want to just start, Zach, with the Formula One because, yeah, as you mentioned, Hamilton claiming the win with Verstappen second. By the way, Verstappen's fastest lap set on the last lap, that was deleted because he exceeded track limits down at just the penultimate corner. So Bottas scored fastest lap and finished third. And Bottas had an issue towards the end of the race with one of his sensors, which is why he fell back. Sergio Perez, a long stint on the medium, Zach. A long stint.
Yeah.
But just got caught up by Hamilton. And however, though, he did switch to the softs later. But he didn't seem to have any pace on them.
No, but to be fair, Charlie, right, okay, he was basically in the middle of nowhere, he was, because there was no one. He managed to basically hold everyone else behind because they were scrapping for their positions. So he was left out on his own, really, because the others, because basically Verstappen, Bottas, and Hamilton was taken off. So basically, Perez was, in other words, just the man in the middle of nowhere. And he did do very well on those meetings. He did go quite long, as you said, Charlie. But they went on to soft, so a bit extra pace. It didn't matter at the end of the day though, because Bottas had enough of a gap to extend the pace and extend the advantage. He got fastest lap. Perez was in the middle of nowhere. where really. But it was a nice try and test, and that's I think Perez's best finish for Red Bull yet in 4th position. Now, hopefully, if anytime soon he may get on the podium position, hopefully soon. But I don't think it was a bad race overall for Perez, actually, considering the long stint. He managed to eke out those tyres. His race pace, as we know, don't underestimate him, Charlie. Don't underestimate Perez in the race pace, because he's a very efficient driver in terms of getting the tyres up, getting the car up, just performing well at the race. 4th place is pretty, I have to say, you got to be impressed with him as well. And I think it was Lando Norris in 5th?
Norris 5th for McLaren. Good result Norris for him. 5th. First 3 races in the top 5 for Lando as well.
That's good, and that's excellent result. He's 3rd in the championship as well, Charlie. He is 3rd in the championship, which, oh my goodness me, who would have thought that? It's only 3 races though. It's only 3 races. So that's how it is at the moment. But he's finished 5th, and
Leclerc 6th.
He's 3rd in the championship. 6th, Ocon 7th, and Alonso 8th. So that's the Alpines had a good weekend, Charlie.
Yeah, they had very strong.
Ricardo,
Alpine.
Wow. Alpine very strong this weekend after first 2 races. Daniel Ricciardo, I think, has done an impressive job today. 9th position. He started 16th.
Didn't have a very good qualifying. He was out in Q1.
No, he didn't have a good. He didn't have a good Q1. He had an awful Q1. Got knocked out there, but he's come out. He worked his way up the field to finish 9th. Gasly, the last point scorer. Carlos Sainz 11th. Giovinazzi 12th. Vettel 13th. Lance Stroll 14th. Again, Aston Martin really are struggling with this new car they have. Tsunoda 15th. Russell, who went back early as well, had a really struggle in the early stint. Russell, he actually went back and back. 16th. Schumacher 17th. Latifi 18th. Nikita Mazepin was the last classified, finishing 19th. Obviously, Kimi Raikkonen, Mazepin, I should also add as well, had a 5-second penalty for ignoring blue flags, and Kimi Raikkonen was the non-finisher of this race because he ended up crashing into his teammate on the front stretch at lap 2, and basically destroys his front wing. I have to say that was probably the most very rookie error by Kimi Raikkonen, because he clearly had the pace, but goodness, he tried to overtake Giovinazzi. But it's almost like the line is straight, and he couldn't even bother to slightly move over to overtake Giovinazzi. I'm surprised Giovinazzi didn't actually get punctured, to be fair, Charlie. But Raikkonen was the one that lost out, and it was another DNF for Kimi Raikkonen. That means no points within the last 2 races. The Imola one, unfortunately, did get a 30-second penalty, which they appealed, which was then rejected by the FIA. Now the Alfa Romeo have accepted that. So yes, that's where it is. Unfortunately, no points in the last 2 races for Kimi Raikkonen, unfortunately for him. So that's how it works. But as I said, Charlie, let's go to the driver's standings.
Yeah, Hamilton ahead by
Hamilton. Yeah, 8 points.
8 points clear now.
Yeah, Verstappen 61. Lando Norris 3rd. Wow, would you be believing saying that? Valtteri Bottas 4th. Leclerc 5th. Perez 6th. Ricciardo 7th. Sainz 8th. Ocon 9th. Pierre Gasly can finish top 10. Stroll, and then ahead of Alonso, ahead of Tsunoda, and that's all the points finishes of Kimi Raikkonen below. Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Vettel, Russell, Mick Schumacher, Mazepin, and Latifi all do not have points this season so far. I'm actually shocked Latifi is actually behind Nikita Mazepin in the standings. Yeah, but that's the drivers' standings, Charlie. In the constructors, it's a 20. I think it's a 9. Actually, it's a 90. It's a 18-point lead, I believe, for Mercedes over Red Bull. Mercedes 101, Red Bull 83, McLaren 30 behind with 53, Ferrari 4th 42, Alpine 5th, AlphaTauri 6th 9. Aston Martin was the last point scorers in the constructors. Alpha Williams has yet to get off the mark, Charlie. 8th, 9th, 10th consecutively.
Yeah, so we go to Spain next week, Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. And I believe that race will take place on the 9th of May. So please get your dates in your diary. Formula E also returns next weekend at Monaco. So 2 F1 tracks, famous F1 tracks, will be hosting races. But that's all Formula One action.
Yes.
And we're going to move on now to
IndyCar,
Charlie, because the first round of the weekend at Texas took place. That was the Genesis 300 at Texas Motor Speedway. And Zach, can I say to Scott McLaughlin, what a drive from him to finish second. But to Scott Dixon, the reigning champion, he won in pretty fine style.
He did. We're lucky we got the race even in, Charlie, because qualifying was delayed. Actually got cancelled because of rain. So they squeezed the race up a little bit, and it was actually I'm reading this, Charlie. It was a New Zealand 1-2 in the IndyCar. It was Dixon, McLaughlin behind as well. And let's look at the let's look at the results here. Patricio Ward and Aaron McLaren third. Alex Palou fourth. Rahal fifth. Newgarden sixth. Jack Harvey seventh. Rossi eighth. Sato ninth. Paginard
and Paginot was 10th.
Paginot was 10th. Yeah, as I say, Kanan 11th. Ed Jones 12th. Felix Rowe 13th. Will Powell 14th. Pietro Fittipaldi 15th. Hunter Ray 16th. Ed Carpenter.
And there was Carpenter, Kellett, Ericsson, Renus, Van Taderholt was 20th. Connor Daly 21st. Colton Hurd 22nd. James Hinchcliffe and I believe Sebastian Bourdais were one of the couple of non-finishers. Bourdais having a crash, I believe. And also James Hinchcliffe, I think, had a crash as well during that first race.
Yeah, had heavy contact with the safety barrier at turn number 2. Basically, a big crash for him. He was okay. Obviously, there was a caution of lap 50 as well. But yes, it was mainly clean race. With Scott Dixon the winner, we're going to have the next race today, Charlie, at around about 10 p.m. UK time, which is going to be or 5 p.m. 10 p.m. UK time, 5 Eastern out in America as well. So we're going to see the second race today later on. I look forward to seeing that. I didn't see the yesterday's race because it was too late for me to watch. Not often I say that, but it was too late. So yes, look forward to seeing the second race, Charlie.
I watched the highlights, Zach, and I tell you what, I was really surprised how Scott McLaughlin finished second, and he's a rookie this season. Like he has made a massive leap forward at the moment. That race yesterday has hauled him up the championship standing.
It has, Charlie. Scott McLaughlin, you may remember, used to be part of Australian Supercars. He actually dominated that series, and he obviously made his name in IndyCar. Now, I imagine I think he did a few races before that, not full time, but obviously he's a rookie this season because he's doing the full schedule. And to go from the back of the grid to second place, obviously this is a speedway, Charlie. So no doubt about it. Basically it's a fast track. It's short, but yeah, you can go easily from 22nd from the last back of the grid to second, really, because of the short circuit. Obviously, Dixon now leading the championship by 18 points by Alex Palou. Powell in third, Pato Wall fourth, Jack Harvey fifth. The gap is a little bit wide. Scott Dixon out on 118. This could be a record-breaking season for Scott Dixon. He's going to go for another back-to-back championship. Alex Palou is behind him as well, chasing him down. But good start for Scott Dixon. Crucial as well. But we still got the second Texas race as well to come. So, and that could all change, Charlie. That could all change.
As well, Zach, and as well as that, obviously, 2 drivers are not racing this weekend. Romain Grosjean and Jimmy Johnson. Their seats have been filled respectively. Grosjean's seat's been filled by Pietro Fittipaldi former Haas reserve driver. I think he still has his reserve driver anyway. And also Tony Kanaan comes in for Jimmy Johnson for this weekend's meeting at Texas, and also for the Indy 500 and the other race at the Bomarito 500 at the Worldwide Technologies Raceway in Illinois as well. That's another one. So it's going to be interesting. And the race that we will be keeping an eye on at 10 o'clock here is the XPEL 375 taking place at Texas Motor Speedway. But Zach, moving on now to NASCAR. And, well, last week for Joey Logano, a huge crash at Talladega in the Geico 500. And that race was very interesting, wasn't it? And another first-time winner as well.
Yes, it was, I believe, this season, Kyle Busch that managed to... Oh, was it Brad Keselowski? I can't remember. Was it Keselowski or Busch?
Brad Keselowski, yeah.
It was Keselowski, thank you. It was Keselowski. I watched the end of the race, actually. I watched it all live. Yes, Logano. We were actually discussing this whilst we were speaking, Charlie, last week, and then I saw the Logano crash. It was a big old flip. I can't believe any more part. I believe it was just him and a few others that crashed. Basically, it was the 3-car wreck. I couldn't believe it was any more than that, because normally when a car flips over like that, you get another bunch of others piling up. But Logano very lucky there. But it was Keselowski who managed to survive, get a bump on the last lap and just drive his way through. There was a late caution, and just as the race finished, because there was a few wrecks behind him, whilst everyone was trying to figure out their position. But yes, he was the one that really survived the really chaotic ending of that race, Charlie. Very, very exciting. I have to say, it was a really exciting finish, and he got a boost at the end to really in that race. Now, currently on at the moment, Charlie, is the Bushy McBush Race 400 at Kansas, which is just about underway now. They're on to the I believe the 16th, 17th lap of the race. I want to also just, Charlie, as well, pay tribute to Eric McClure, who sadly passed away early today. He's a former NASCAR driver, very well known. Made 300 starts in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and then retired in 2016. He's only 42, but sadly he's away today. That's just the news that came in today. May he rest in peace. Very
Eric McClure, rest in peace there. And obviously last week as well, Joey Logano suffering a horror crash at Talladega, but he is okay. The Bushy McBush race, I believe, is at Kansas. I believe.
Yes, it's on now at the moment, Charlie. Well. It's on now. It's I don't have. Let me see what the leaderboard at the moment. As well, it's Brad Keselowski who's leading at the moment. At the minute, ahead of William Byron and Harvick, but we're on lap 25 at the moment, Charlie. We're on lap 25 at the moment, so still all to play for in the race.
Yeah, and Zach as well with the Geico 500 last week. Matt DiBenedetto was actually won stage 1 and 2, I think, and then it all went downhill from him. He dropped down the field, and he still finished, I think, respectably in about 6th place. But it was really Keselowski that stole it at the jaws of the line at Talladega.
Yeah. He was ahead, basically. By the time he got to the second corner, he was off because he got a big draft. Actually 3, because nobody, someone, DeBeno could have won that. But in fairness, he made an error, draft an error, because he didn't get enough air to be able to get much speed. So basically Keselowski got more speed than Matt DiBenedetto, and he was ahead at the end of turn 3. He was ahead basically, Keselowski, on his way, whilst everyone else was having a few problems behind him. That's how it ended in terms of that.
Yeah, certainly. So that is the action there from NASCAR. We will be going to, I believe, was it Darlington next week? Is it Darlington the next week?
Yes, I think it is Darlington. I will double check that, but I believe
that the next NASCAR meeting, I believe, is going to be going at Darlington. Let me just have a check. Yeah, Darlington, 9th of May. Yeah, next weekend.
Yeah,
that's for the Cup Series.
Sweet.
And that's at Darlington. It's going to be a good race. at Darlington, I'm pretty sure. But that's on the 9th of May, the NASCAR race at Darlington. We're going to move off motorsport now and talk about COVID-19, because I want to start, Zach, by talking about the latest news here in the UK. And this positive news that we're all getting through is self-isolation going to be replaced? Now, I heard today on the news, or especially on BBC and Sky, I think, that they're planning on replacing self-isolation with lateral flow daily COVID tests. What do you make of this, Zach?
Well, yeah, that's it's I heard that today. It's an interesting development that Rob was doing the media round this morning. The plan, as I understand, Charlie, from what I've read, is that rather than self-isolating, if you come into contact with someone positive, you take a lateral flow test every day. And then if you're negative, you basically do your same thing. You do your daily lateral flow tests. If you're negative, you go to work, basically, or wherever you need to go to. If you're positive, you obviously self-isolate, and then probably get a PCR test afterwards. The reason why I say PCR test afterwards, Charlie, is because the lateral flow tests have been questioned, because there has been some false negatives coming out of it, which is why there is some criticism about it. The use of lateral flow tests is not fully positive or negative, potentially on that one. But no, I from my perspective, Charlie, from what I've read, I welcome whatever method is needed, really, to be fair, to end the long self-isolation periods. And sometimes if you stay maybe, well, not unnecessary, but sometimes dauntingly long isolation, that feels like days where you're worrying whether you do have COVID or not. But yes, it looks like it's going to be replaced in the future, from what Rob is suggesting, by daily lateral flow tests, to see whether you are positive or not, and whether you can be safe going to work.
Yeah, and this news comes as the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, has now received his first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine as well.
Yes, none other judged by none other than the Van Tam himself. It was what a great sight to see. The Van Tam, the Jonathan Van Tam, basically jabbing the Health Secretary. It was a good sight to see, actually.
It was. I'm sure Hancock enjoyed it at the Science Museum, having his first dose. But yeah, that news follows on from the announcement that hopefully I think there is a trial that's going ahead of this. I would love to see the self-isolation rules end, because it leads to long deprivation, mental health as well. Lots of people have suffered with that all the last year. And I really think that if we're gonna reopen this country and people are still at home because they're coming into contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, I just think it kind of ruins it, especially, Zach, if people work as well. Some people have to work, like NHS staff and workers.
I think, I understand your point you're making, Charlie. I also think, though, it's necessary just to, at the time where this was all peaking and stuff like that, if we say this happened all a year ago, it would have been necessary to self-isolate anyway, because that virus could still hold in your body for so many days.
Yeah.
So you could be past it. If you then say, well, I'm going to be all right, I'm not going to be negative. I'm going to be negative. I'm just going to test negative. Bye-bye. I'm going to go back to work. You could still technically have the body. You could still have the virus in your body technically at the time, because, as you know, as I said, COVID lasts in your body. It's not going to always pick up as well. The tests are not always going to pick up instantly. It's only going to become obvious after a few days. So, that was at the time. Now COVID is starting to disappear. This is a route, really, where you could really look at it, trial this, Charlie, which is fine. So I think that we're at that stage now, considering the rates and stuff for COVID, that it's probably necessary to trial this sort of thing out.
Yeah, I think as well, like Zach, it's going to be interesting how debates are going to work on this, because you got to think this is a big issue at the moment regarding testing, and we know that the government. I'm not going to be rude in saying this here, but the government last year had an awful testing program. Like, I'm not joking.
Oh, yeah.
It was absolutely kaput. And I just couldn't get my head around how many people we were testing a day. And we didn't have a test and trace system that worked fantastically well. So I welcome this move. Let's hope it works. I hope it does. Obviously, the next big easing is due on the 17th of May, if all goes well, which is looking like it is at the moment. But
Yeah.
I think as well, testing is probably what is going to get a lot of people sort of back to normality. So we'll keep you an eye on that news. But we're going to move on now to PMQs on Wednesday. Oh my God, wow. I watched
My God.
the PMQs I watched PMQs on Wednesday, Zach, and I tell you what, Boris Johnson and Keir Starmer, it was probably their most heated row yet in the House of Commons chamber on the renovation of Boris's Downing Street flat. What do you make of this saga?
This is Charlie. This is UK politics in a nutshell. Argument over who decorated the flats. This is what UK politics is. This is peak politics, right? Okay, and I know it's serious, but sometimes we can get out a laugh when politics is decided on who paid for the flats. Who decorated the flats, then we know what Britain really looks like these days. But no, on another serious note, Charlie, that was basically Boris Johnson at his angriest and very much a rattlest. It was the case where Boris Johnson looked more like Gammon Johnson than anything like else, going very red-faced and angry because he was getting questioned. He was very, very forensically questioned by Keir Starmer of who paid for the flats. Now, long story short, what this is about is whether a Conservative Party donor originally paid for the renovation for Johnson's number 11 flat, because that's where the Prime Ministers live. All Prime Ministers live in number 11. They work in number 10, but they live in the upstairs flat in number 11. Now, that was going to be redecorated. So I don't know why they choose a pandemic at a time to do this. But there's allegedly that a Tory donor originally loaned about £50,000 to basically, renovate this flat. Now, some will think, oh yeah, what's wrong with this and all that sort of thing. Well, there is something wrong with this. It's against the Electoral Commission's rules on party finances, party uses of money. And unfortunately, the Electoral Commission has said on Wednesday that there may have been possible crimes committed with this donation. Now, the Prime Minister and other ministers are going around the media rounds and saying, well, the Prime Minister basically paid out his own money for it eventually. But that's not the point, Charlie. What the people are wanting to know about is whether who originally paid for the number 11 flat before Boris Johnson paid up himself. There's rumours going around it could be a Conservative Party donor. That breaks potentially the Electoral Commission rules. And yeah, if that could result in a serious load of trouble for some Conservative donors, potentially the party chairman, co-chairman Ben Elliott, and a few others as well. But yes, there is serious implications in this. This is starting to cut through now. If you look at the latest opinion polls, where Labour are now in the latest opinion poll, were 5 points behind, down from about 10 or so from the last poll. And there was also an IPOS Mori poll that suggested that the Labour are now also 1 point behind, which is very significant considering we are local elections this Thursday, Charlie. This will change voter perception.
This Friday.
Some people... Yeah, this Thursday. This is voting this Thursday. It's going to go all the way into the weekend as well. I've already voted because I've done postal voting, Charlie. I did my postal vote this week. This week I posted on Thursday, so I am voted. I'm for my second time in my life. But PMQs were completely dominated by accusations of what's so-called Tory sleaze and cronyism, favouritism. As well. And also this week, Charlie, the first question was dominated by whether the Prime Minister said that over allegations, rumoured that the Prime Minister, when discussing, basically when the second lockdown came, he was against it. There was, according to the Daily Mail, he allegedly said a comment that some sources have on tape, potentially, and in the room, that Boris Johnson said he would rather let the bodies pile high than impose a second lockdown. Now, that is a very serious allegation, Charlie. That is very serious. I think if that was true, that's quite a disgusting, disgraceful quote to come out with. Now, we don't know whether that's really true or not, because Boris Johnson has on the record said he hasn't. There are sources saying off the record, briefing to newspapers, that he has. Who do we believe? We don't know, because unless there's some tapings coming out, which allegedly there may be, we don't know who's going to be telling the truth on this, Charlie.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? That lockdown thing. I'm pretty sure. Whilst we're here, though, I'm going to play for you some highlights of PMQs from Wednesday. Have a listen to this.
God, this will be enjoyable.
Warning, though, things may get a little bit rowdy. Have a listen to this.
Prime Minister initially is the key word here, who initially paid for the redecoration of his Downing Street flat.
You should know that I paid for Downing Street refurbishment personally, Mr. Speaker, and I contrast it. Any further declaration that I have to make, I will, if any, I will be advised upon by Lord Guy.
People deserve a Prime Minister they can trust, and a government that isn't mired in sleaze, cronyism and scandal.
Mr. Speaker, last week he came to this chamber and he attacked me for talking to James Dyson about ventilators, where we're now sending ventilators to help the people of India. And the following day, Mr. Speaker, the Labour front bench said that any Prime Minister in my position would have done exactly the same thing. It wasn't only a few months ago that they were actually attacking Kate Bingham, saying she was a crony when she helped to set up the vaccine task force that delivered millions of vaccines for the people of this country. It's a people helping us to get out of the pandemic. This is a government that is getting on with delivering on the people's priorities. We're rolling out many more nurses, 10,000 more nurses in the NHS now than there were this time last year. 8,771 more police officers on our streets now than there were when I was elected, including tougher sentences, Mr. Speaker, for serious sexual and violent criminals, which he opposed, Mr. Speaker. We're getting on. And by the way, I forgot to mention it. Last night, our friends in the European Union voted to approve our Brexit deal, which he opposed, and which enables us not just to take back control of our borders, Mr. Speaker, but to deliver free, which it does, which he fervently opposed, enabling us, amongst other things, to deal with such threats as the European Super League, Mr. Speaker. But it enables us to deliver free ports in places like Teesside, and above all, taking back control of our country has allowed us to deliver the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, as he well knows, Mr. Speaker, which would not have been possible if we'd stayed in the European Medicines Agency, which he voted for. Mr. Speaker, week after week, the people of this country can see the difference between a Labour Party that twists and turns with the wind, that thinks of nothing except playing political games, whereas this party gets on with delivering on the people's priorities, and I hope that people will vote Conservative on May the 6th.
So I asked the Prime Minister again, who paid the initial invoice, Prime Minister, for the redecoration of the Prime Minister's flat? The initial invoice.
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I've given him the answer, and the answer is I have covered the costs, and I think most people will find it absolutely bizarre. And of course, there's an electoral commission investigating this, and I can tell him that I've conformed in full with the code of conduct, with ministerial code, and officials who have been been advising me throughout this whole thing.
This is a Prime Minister who, during the pandemic, was nipping out of meetings to choose wallpaper at £840 a roll. Just last week, he spent his time phoning journalists to moan about his old friend Dominic Cummings. And he's telling the civil service to find out who paid for the redecoration of his flat. The Cabinet Secretary has been asked to investigate who paid for the refurbishments of the flat. Why doesn't the Prime Minister just tell him? That will be the end of the investigation. Mr. Speaker, it's been widely reported that Lord Brownlow, who just happens to have been given a peerage by the Conservative Party, was asked to donate £58,000 to help repay for the cost of this refurbishment. Can the Prime Minister, if he's so keen to answer, confirm, did Lord Brownlow make that payment for that purpose?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I think I've answered this question several times, and the answer is that I have covered the costs. I have met the requirements that I've been obliged to meet in full.
Thank you there to Boris Johnson and Keir Starmer. Zach, what did you make of that debate?
What a shouty load of nonsense. I have to say on that bit where you went ranting on the end, it was a load of whataboutism. Basically decided to bring up all this irrelevant stuff, pre-scripted. It was just a load of nonsense, Charlie, in there. This is just a shouty little gammon who was basically screaming across the circle because he's rattled because he couldn't even answer the blooming questions. The thing about it, Charlie, is not, oh, you paid for it eventually. It was who initially gave you the money to basically refurbish the flat. Not, oh, I've covered the cost and paid for it. It's honestly, it's just some shouty gammon, really. Boris Johnson was. Now you just, good impression, Charlie. You're getting past my impression skills well, but it was a load of shouty old nonsense, screaming across the house. I know he's become a meme basically because he just looks angry, but goodness me, I'd rather look at the memes all day than him shouting across like some madman who doesn't look
Boris
like a clue what he's talking about. Yes, Boris Johnson in a nutshell, Charlie. That's it.
That's the Prime Minister. I don't know what to say about that. I'll probably stay I'll stay neutral in that discussion, this debate about who paid for the renovation of the flat. I mean, Labour. It's clear Labour accusing the Tories of sleaze here. Is this a big sleaze for us for the Tories, Zach? I'm sure
it is a lot of sleaze, Charlie. In my opinion, there's a lot of sleaze going on. What a privileged one rule for them, one rule for the other. Maybe it's about to cut through. If we're looking at the polls recently, maybe this is cutting through. Is it enough? We don't know. The local elections on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will tell us all. I'm sure we'll be discussing this a lot next week, Charlie, as well.
Yes, we will. The Mayor of London race is going to be hotting up as well. Sean Bailey and Sadiq Khan going to be going head to head in that one. Please get out and vote next week. We really want to get people out and vote. But we're going to move on now from this Tory from this debate on flats now. India's COVID-19 pandemic, Zach, moving on to this now, still not going well. Over 400,000 cases the other day, and clear that the UK is sending more ventilators across to the COVID-affected country of India.
Yeah, more problems in India, unfortunately. Their long torture with COVID is still going, unfortunately. Today, they've reported once again more than 300,000 COVID cases. Which is just a staggering load. There's now local lockdowns in Delhi, New Delhi as well on that front. It is a painful experience for what's going on in India. Once again, over and over again, the US is now sending ventilators, equipment, and all that. UK is. India is a lot of trouble. There's been basically fires in hospitals, Charlie, as well, which meant bodies being burnt. This is an awful sight. It's like a zombie scene, basically, there, Charlie. There's literally just dead rubber on the ground, full of dead people. It's not a pretty sight. Hospitals are packed. It's chaos, Charlie. It's a horrible, horrible scene. It's like a war scene. It's almost like, if there's an invincible dinosaur breathing fire into people's faces. It's that bad over there. And it's a horrible, horrible sight, Charlie, that no one wants to see. This is basically Italy all over again, Charlie. If we're going to compare that. This is basically Italy, but on steroids. From the first virus. That's how bad it is, and it's not a pretty sight. And India are struggling at the moment.
I mean, Zach, how are Brazil doing at the moment as well? Obviously, the other country that's been quite badly hit.
Yeah, Brazil, I think as well, is still struggling a little bit as well. Let's look at the cases. It's just starting. There's hints, Charlie, that it's maybe starting to go down a little. Oh no, I'm wrong. I was. Do you know what? I was take me back. I was just about to say there's hints that are starting to go down. It's still at 68,000 a day. Under 70,000, and they've now recently passed 400,000 deaths, Charlie, and a slow vaccination rate, thanks to Jair Bolsonaro saying that everyone should wait for the spray vaccine. Well, you're not going to get it because there's no such thing as a nasal spray vaccine. There's also rallies still taking place of Jair Bolsonaro. What a bunch of morons these people are. The Bolsonaro's just doing his usual things and not giving a total hooty wooty about the virus and just letting people die. As I said, another 2,658 deaths yesterday, 406th. They've now had a total of 14.7 million cases, Charlie. 14.7.
Wow. That's for Brazil. Wow.
That is for Brazil. Obviously, they have a variant there. India have a variant where they are. Just basically, yeah. And also the COVID-19 Brazil. I'm not joking with you on this one.
I know, it's not very nice.
There is 1,300 to 1,300 babies have died of COVID. So this variant, I don't know if it's a variant or something like that, or because they have such a really crappy healthcare over there, but the 1,300 babies are dying. Now think about that. I don't know if it's variant or really the terrible healthcare system they have over there, or just but there is babies that are actually dying. That's actually quite.
It's horrifying, isn't it?
That is heartbreaking. There's no words to describe it. There's no words to describe it.
It's horrible, Zach. I mean, I know how terrible Brazil is at the moment, and I'm just going to say as well, I think Jair Bolsonaro is actually, there's an investigation that's been launched into him over his handling of the pandemic in Brazil. It's very clear, Zach, that this investigation could get very interesting for the Brazilian president.
Yeah. Well, if the rate it's going, he'll probably be in prison if this was 3 years' time. And then probably have some. I don't know if you base on the polls, depending on what model, who's going to get the polling. I saw one poll which suggested that the left-wing candidate could win the presidency there, which is in another year anyway. So that's still a long way away. But there's no way that you can excuse the handling of the COVID pandemic from the Jair Bolsonaro. There's no excuse. It's been an utterly tripe response. It's been terrible. It's just unhuman. It should be conspiracy theories. I sometimes even think Tucker Carlson wouldn't go far as conspiracy theories that Jair Bolsonaro does sometimes with nasal spray, no masks, having court orders done on him, and goodness me. That's one president you do not want to be hands of COVID with if there's a disaster that's happening.
I think Bolsonaro's, to be honest with you, I mean, Bolsonaro's comment on the vaccine was, I thought, quite alarming when he mentioned that you should take nasal spray instead of a vaccine. Can I just say this message whilst I'm here to all the listeners watching the Globetrotter Newscast live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter this evening. Here's a message to the Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro. Jair Bolsonaro says that having a vaccine is worse than having COVID. Well, can I just say that comment is totally unacceptable? It is a totally unacceptable comment from the Brazilian president. And it's also a comment that is going to put potential vaccinations at risks. The vaccine far outweighs any benefits of any risks. And what your comment and the comment that you made, Mr. Bolsonaro, about the vaccine is quite ludicrous, really. And frankly, you should be ashamed of yourself, mate. And I think as well, Zach, it's clear that it's not just Jair Bolsonaro that said that as well. I think Charles Walker said that as well in the UK Parliament about him taking a nasal spray as well. And it sounds like we're having politicism. There's been politicism as well in many countries over the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine as well. Over is there blood clots that form on this thing? Let me just say it's absolutely safe, and I'll urge people to say that. And Zach, what's the situation like on the AstraZeneca vaccine at the moment?
I don't know. We haven't had an update on that. I imagine we will get soon, but it seems to be working totally fine at the moment. Many people are still getting their second jabs, which is great to see. I'm hopefully due my second jab soon, Charlie. I don't know when, but it'll probably be in the next 2-3 weeks. Fingers crossed, which will be great to hear on my end as well. I'm really looking forward to it. When I eventually get it, it's not far off now, I believe, Charlie. So I look forward to getting it very soon. I will be taking the AstraZeneca for the second time. I know there's a bit of controversy around that because it's recommended that under 30s don't take it, but obviously because I've taken it the first time, I take it the second time because they recommend me that people that do take that the second time. So I think I'll be fine. I will be fine. I'm optimistic. I'm positive looking, Charlie. I'm going to get this AstraZeneca vaccine right into my veins and give me all that lovely protection, and hopefully in the future give me the freedoms worthy in the future when the time comes. When the time comes.
If you're a fan, if you've had the Pfizer vaccine as well, there's 60 more million doses that's been ordered as well for autumn. That was announced in a government press briefing last week by Matt Hancock as well. And is that good move from the government to order more vaccines?
Yes. I think it's necessary, just in case we need to stack up an extra set. It's always good, and that's needed. There'll probably be quite a lot sparing at the end of the day, Charlie. But nevertheless, we could basically sell this to other countries if we needed to be. But nevertheless, it's always good we keep stacking up because we can always send it off if needs to be.
Yes, it really is. So that is the news on COVID-19. But I'm going to move on now and do a final feature. And the final feature of this podcast tonight is going to be talking about careers. And I have some options here for you, for the listeners tonight, who might not be sure what you want to be doing going forward with careers. And I'm going to present some career options. And obviously, Zach's going to give his opinion on what you'll be doing, like in some of these careers. So, Zach, I found some careers on a website from South Essex College here that give you different options. And one of the careers I was going to touch on tonight was a career that is in art, business administration and development, which is available to purchase from a level 1 GCSE up to a level 6 degree. Now, business administration and management is a course that looks at the journey of business, finance, marketing, and leadership. Now, Zach, what do you expect young achievers to achieve when they're doing this course?
Oh, business administration, hey? That's an interesting one. So as you said, it looks, as you said, more on the finance and HR side of things, Charlie, looking at it as well. Let me look at it, actually, because I've never actually, I've done business, but I never, I've never done this sort of thing as well.
It's a lot. It's a course. It's a course that requires lots of attention when you're working.
Yes, absolutely. You're obviously going to find you're obviously going to need a lot of attention when as well doing these sort of things as well. Because I'm very fascinated. I did a business course, to be fair, Charlie, as well. And it was more of the not the the general business sort of side of it as well. I'm actually going to look through this actually because so basically what you could be learning is investigation rights, responsibilities at work, managing health at work. Oh, preparing for work placement, working business administration, professional behaviour, office equipment, managing, using email, IT, that sort of thing. So I get where we're going at this actually. So this is more of what you do in the normal business work today, behind the sort of things, scenes sort of thing, Charlie, that we see. Obviously, because a business just doesn't run by a few people send you a few things. There's a lot of work behind the scenes stuff that you have to do, like on the computer, on the phone, on the emails, as well. And you've got to have to tell, obviously, want people to come to your business and use your business and enjoy working in business. So that's how you do it. And you want to work in teams, get placements, start pop-ups, and that sort of thing, create a product. And that's sort of the thing that the business administration, I think, does. from what I see. Now, that's obviously if you're into, having good ideas, be the next Alan Sugar. If you want to be that optimistic, then maybe this is for you. To be fair, Charlie, I know you're probably looking at future careers, and I see you've already looked at a little interest here, Charlie. I see looking at already. Good for you, man.
And as well as that, Zach,
It's
on
always
the
a good
mention
time
of,
to start looking.
famous people, obviously don't discount Donald Trump in America. He used to be a very famous businessman as well.
No, yeah, he's probably a terrible politician, but a good businessman at the time. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that he was an interesting businessman. He did have some failures, a lot of failures. I think he went bust once, nearly. But he created the US version of The Apprentice, and basically put all those potential candidates in the line, as well. So yeah, you could be like Donald Trump. We don't have to behave like him, but you can be inspirational like him, as well. Get a big business out of the way. There's so much you could do, really, to be fair. And learning about business is good because you can create a business, you can grow your business, you can start new ideas, basically, and you could get on the market as well, Charlie. You would always want to get on the market. You want to be noticed. You want to beat the usual competitive rivals and all that stuff. The ones that we've known for years. Depends on which sector you're in, what we're talking about. Because you could do various sectors. But honestly, once you create business, run a good workforce, you're looking at success. And follow your dreams, as they say. I think, Charlie, in what you want to do and grow up.
Zach, I was going to ask you a question on this. What subjects and qualifications do most students need to access business administration courses?
Well, obviously you're going to need your English, your maths. That's most of the things as well. You're also going to have to pass the BTECs as well, to get over. So their employees basically look into this, as well. You need good communication, good skills, a good thinking mind. You're going to need a good thinking mind, I think, as well. But qualification wise, it's English, maths, that sort of thing, that you will need as well. It depends on what you're working to. Level 1, you're probably looking at, B's in English, maths, depending on what maths your level equivalents and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's the main thing. Your English and maths, always mandatory. Whatever you think of.
Business administration sounds like a very good course, actually. I really would recommend it to people. As well as that, like, obviously, there's so many different career destinations as South Essex College have explained here. But I'm just going to share my screen very quickly on this podcast tonight, just to show you exactly what you can see on this course here. So we've got a list of different qualifications here. So you've got different career destinations. So from business administration and management, you can actually choose different career destinations. So, for example, you've got finance administration, which is like dealing with finance. You've got customer service operative as well, cleaning roles, procedurement assistant, PA as well, HR manager, business analyst as well. You can do like analysing business. You can also do recruitment consultant as well, like helping people recruit for jobs. Entrepreneur. And that entrepreneur is a very important one, isn't it? Like in general.
Yes. The entrepreneur. Let me look this up actually. Oh, there we go. I'm here. There we go. A person who sets up a business or business. Taking the financial risk in hope for a profit. That means someone who has a bold brain, someone who's willing to, think outside the box. Charlie, think of this wild but crazy idea at the time, and that could give you success. That's the one you're going to be looking for, in terms of, making your business a success and going outside the box. As I said, Charlie, going outside the box, doing good things, doing something original, doing something new, doing something what the old competitors can't be able to think of. Be different from them. Be different. You get your audience out. You find your people. You can you can broaden your diversify your business and all that sort of thing, Charlie, that would be a great thing for you to do to get in the market.
And as well as that, Zach, many businesses have been hit hard by COVID-19 as well, especially entrepreneurs that have been struggling, sort of trying to create their own businesses. COVID-19 has had serious implications on that, hasn't it?
It has, Charlie. COVID's affected, the smallest business to the biggest business. Everyone's been affected in some sort of way. Do you know what's really fair, Charlie? I'm very optimistic about this in the future. I'm very optimistic that people are going to be looking for jobs. People are going to be looking for new ideas. People are going to be thinking about fresh innovations. And COVID-19, after COVID-19, I think there's going to be many fresh ideas, many fresh people that are going to think of what to grow something, to make something, to create something. And, this could be the next generation of big thinkers, I think, Charlie. And I certainly look forward, post-COVID world, to something that's brand new. And we'll look out for the big next stars, big business stars of the world, because I think there's potential for somebody out there to make a product the whole world notices, and we just go, wow. I mean, a few years ago, Charlie, we've never heard of Zoom or stuff like that. And we never knew it would exist. Now in the COVID days, it's rocketed. People are just using it because they've looked for something to use to work around COVID and not people to allow safe working. And we found it. We found it this year. We found it last year, Charlie. We found Zoom. We found the Microsoft stuff as well. Microsoft Teams. Everyone was using that.
Google Meet. Loads of things.
There's loads of things that people found. That's the way to find something innovative and fresh in the modern world. And here we are in a pandemic. We found that. So post-pandemic, there's going to be something that everyone finds that will take off in the market, hopefully. I just hope that it's around the corner very soon.
Yes, and Zach, my final question before we wrap this podcast up tonight on the sort of the subject of courses as well. With the government's Kickstart scheme planning about many extra jobs, I think it was 3.5 million new jobs or something, could this really help young achievers get out into the world of work very easily?
It could do. Obviously, it's got to be dependent on the employee, and the employers making that space for young people to basically, get into work. There will be many opportunities, and this is important because young people have actually been affected by this virus the most in terms of employment. Those who have been let off are disproportionately, mostly young people, Charlie, 18 to 13-year-olds, 18 to 24-year-olds. If you take about it, the older you get, the more likely you are to stay in employment in the COVID world. So this is obviously necessary to get back the jobs and to start new careers for young people, Charlie. I don't know how successful it is. I read somewhere it wasn't really that successful, but give it a chance. It's still out there. There's plenty of jobs out. There's going to be many jobs out there. The market's going to be busy for jobs, Charlie. There's no doubt about it. And young people are the ones that they should be looking to in the future.
Yeah, and Zach as well, Rishi Sunak said as well that this scheme is meant to create new jobs. This is meant to be a jobs for jobs scheme to help young people. I think it's between the ages of 18 and 24 or 16 and 24 to get into employment, to give themselves a job. Is this really important? And do the government have to succeed with this Kickstart scheme?
They have to.
Jobs for jobs.
Because our youngest ones are the ones that have grown up knowing, and we're going to be looking then for the future. The young ones are going to be the role models for the next 30, 40 years time. So they're the ones we're looking to as role models. And, we need obviously a system where young people want to thrive. A system where young people are looked at, the young system where the young people are the future. And we are going to need to start that process now, basically, because it's the older basically retiring, and we need the experience, we need the work, we need the education to basically fulfill our young kids and our young ones and develop them for the future so that we pass the buck to them and then when they grow up, they pass it back to the next generation of older people. That's how I see it, Charlie. And that's how I see the world post-COVID.
Yeah, Zach, as well. I agree. I think after like post-COVID, I think the world will be very different. I just hope as well, like as I said earlier about the career options in like business administration. I think it's clear that a lot of people really want to get out there, and that's a sector of the economy that should have a lot more people going for jobs. People, whether they're learning how to deal with finance, learning how to solve money problems, whether they're going on to like studying, I don't know, being an accountant, dealing with different like maths problems, for example. It's a very important thing, and I really think that in this future we're going to see, I hope, a big boom in a more number of young people getting into jobs. Let's hope this government's Kickstart scheme really takes effect very soon on the post-economic recovery of COVID. And Zach, do you think, for this final question of the podcast now, do you think the UK economy will rebound quickly after the pandemic or after all COVID restrictions ease?
I think it will. I mean, if in the US they're proving it right now. The US economy bounced 6.4% in the first quarter on the first few months of the Joe Biden administration. So if that can bounce in a COVID world, the UK can. I think the UK is definitely going to be looking at a very strong recovery this year alone, Charlie, based on the figures that we've seen. So I expect the economy to be going up this year alone. And that is only just about a good sign, Charlie.
All I can say is good times will be beginning very soon. I really want to see the economy recover. I know in America that they're having a little boom again in having the economy that's been rebounding. I just want to see businesses back at work, this country functioning once again. Because Britain, let's face it, COVID has damaged our businesses. So many thousands of people have been furloughed. Some are even out of work. We have to get Britain back moving now. The economy is what matters. People need their jobs and people need to be trading, especially in businesses like hospitality that have really struggled to cope during this pandemic. But I'm going to end this podcast off here. And all the listeners out there, thank you so much for watching the Globetrotter Newscast. And I'll be back again next week for another episode of the Globetrotter Newscast live on social media. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Take care and stay safe. Goodbye.